By the always difficult, sometimes impossible to explain costs of original creative thinking in script preparation, photography, and editing. Now, at last, we are pleased to announce the elimination of these unnecessary irritants through the utilization of a hard-hitting, versatile, and all-encompassing film document. The first truly all-purpose film. When viewing this film, please keep your company name and your product in mind. You are about to witness history in the making.
Laboratories of Your Name Here had come the key to the secret that had baffled man through the ages. No longer a dream, but a reality was Your Product Here. Now, for the first time, limitless horizons open for the nation. A brighter future unfolded. With new Your Product Here available to all, man is working modern miracles, breaking the boundaries of time, nearing the conquest of space itself. In countless ways, directly and indirectly, Your Product Here serves the nation and its citizens, plays a vital role in helping every American to achieve a better way of life, enables or helps him to enjoy healthful recreation, have well-trained, obedient pets, make friends, have leisure time for travel, grow bigger crops, get real smoking satisfaction, strengthen our national defense, keep romance from fading away, enjoy smoother shaves, live in a more comfortable home, take off ugly fat, achieve success.
John, you mean...
That's right, Larry. I got the promotion. Starting tomorrow, I'm no longer just a shipping clerk. I'm chairman of the board.
And it's all because of...
Your Product Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage co-chairs of the Web 2.0 Expo, Sarah Milstein of UVM Tech Web, and Brady Forrest of O'Reilly Media.
Welcome back again. It's great to be back in San Francisco.
I'm Sarah Milstein.
And as my guest, I'm Brady Forrest.
And we are the co-chairs for Web 2. It's so great to see you all here. So as you probably know, our theme this year is the power of platforms, which might sound a little bit like empty marketing speak, but actually we chose it because we think it's got a really powerful story to tell about Web 2. At the beginning of TV, a lot of you probably know that people filmed plays, and we put a single play up online. They didn't, up online, they would broadcast it, is what I meant. They didn't really understand some of the power of the medium, what it would mean for TV to be serial, or that you could have a show that would help pick the next big pop star in the country, and that the audience would help pick that person, and that would be awesome. It took a while for people to figure that out. And we've got the same story with the web. You know, everybody knows that we started with brochureware, that people just digitized their print materials and put it online. But it turns out that the power of the web is really in data and services that you share. And that's what a platform is. It's a system where you share data and services that other people can build on and that they can contribute to. So some of the early consumer web examples are Google and eBay. They weren't just websites, they were whole systems, ecosystems where other companies could live and thrive. We picked the power of the web, the power of platforms, because we've got those opportunities today in new ways. Of course, our new platform companies are Twitter and Facebook. But there are opportunities, really exciting opportunities, for you to live in those platforms or create your own. And that's what we really want to look at this week, is help you understand those opportunities. Brady's going to talk about some of our other themes.
And one of the main themes of the conference this year is looking at the mobile space. It seems really obvious now, but it wasn't always so obvious how mobile would play with the web. Just like TV, there have been fits and starts. And it's really only been in the past 2 years, with the launch of the iPhone, Android, WebOS, and now Windows Series 7, that we're seeing mobile really come to the web. And we're seeing how the next billion are going to be coming onto the web. We had many sessions on that today. We're having multiple sessions for the rest of the week, covering the type of data exhaust that comes from having a personal device on you all the time, that allows you to be your personal sensor, and talking about how we need a new UI to manage all the different data that we need to access through these smaller devices, and how companies can take advantage of this new data. So that's just one of the things we'll be covering this week. But now I'd like to get to some of our housekeeping, and I'd like to thank our largest sponsor, Microsoft. We just give them a hand. Without them, this show would not be possible. And they're sponsoring a contest with their new iPhone app, Tag. And if you find all 10 locations and you're one of the fastest, you can win an Xbox. There are other prizes, Xbox games and Zunes. Last night, I don't know how many of you were there, we had an Ignite. Can I get
It's awesome.
people there? We had 11 geek speakers get up, each do 20 slide presentations. They were just 15, each slide was just 15 seconds long. And that was sponsored by .co. So if you need a new domain, go see them down in the expo floor. Now, we try to keep the wireless network up. It's been decent by my estimation all day, but we'd like to ask that you keep it to just one device. So just one connection per child or person. So if you're using your iPhone, turn off your laptop, please. And finally, for my bit, if your battery is running low, there are places to power up. We don't have power sockets in all the rooms, but in the level 2 lobby and in the Web 2 Open Lounge, you can go and get some more juice.
All right, so W2E, that's the important characters for us. It's both our Twitter account and our hashtag. That's Caitlin Pike. She is the community manager for Web2. She's the main person who maintains our Twitter account, and if you see her around, say hello. By the way, if you're having trouble getting on the wireless in here, make sure you reconnect for the Wi-Fi in this room, which should be something called something like Web2 Keynotes or something like that. All right, we've got another contest here this week, the Paparazzi 2.0. It's a Twitter-based game, cash prizes. Take a look online for the details on that. We ask that you please rate the sessions that you attend, and you can do all of that on our website, which is web2expo.com/SF. You can find any session you attend, and in the upper right corner of the session, it's easy to rate a session. You can comment on them as well. It really helps us improve the... We have got a whole bunch of archival videos as part of the keynotes this week from the Pralinger archives. Rick and Megan Pralinger collect and share archival video. They've got incredible stuff, really amazing. And they've put together a batch of clips for us, especially for Web 2 this week. All of the clips in some way reflect on how people understood themselves and technology at a certain point in time. And they give us a good perspective on ourselves. So what I particularly like about the video that we just showed, which was made in 1964 by a company called Calvin Industries. They were an industrial filmmaker. They made the spoof. The Pralingers didn't make the spoof part. The company that made the film in 1964, which was using the style of the time, it's like prime, Mad Men era. People had this very earnest media style. And we think of that as kind of a naive time. But in fact, what this spoof shows us is they really had self-awareness and a deep sense of irony, which sounds kind of familiar. It's something we think about now. So I hope you guys really enjoy the videos this week. If you are intrigued, check out Megan's new book. It's called Another Science Fiction. It's just out. You can reach out to her on Twitter too, of course. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here this week, but I'll be pimping their stuff all week, so you'll be hearing about it.
Yeah, I really like that video because it reminds me of the really smooth product placement in Lady Gaga videos. You really can't tell what products she's pitching. But now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is the king of the lols. He is the master of the Cheeseburger Network, and he's here to talk about internet memes and internet culture. Please welcome out Ben Huff.
Well, thanks everybody for being here. I know that the weather's really nice outside, and you guys are spending all your time indoors with no windows. But I wanted to talk to you about something that's really dear to me, which is about internet culture. If you don't know about me or my company, my name is Ben, and I started this company called the Cheeseburger Network. Our websites, I'm sorry, I think the slides are, there you go. Oh, let's go back to the first slide. There you go. That's my Twitter handle, so if you have any feedback, I'd appreciate it. I'm talking about being one with internet culture, and my company, the Cheeseburger Network, deals almost exclusively in internet culture with such highbrow websites as Failblog, I Can As Cheeseburger, thank you, very motivational. We run almost 50 sites today, and we run with in a little boundary called humor, and we receive submissions from our users to power all of these websites. We get about 19,000 submissions on a daily basis, and we reach about 15 million people every month. So internet culture has a lot to do with computing, right? Because it's on the internet. Well, not only that, it depends on how we use computing power to do to change humanity. The first thing is that we are aware of is powerful processing, folding proteins, trying to model the weather. That's science. And computing. We try to push the envelope as to what we can do with computing power, what we can actually find out about nature and about humanity. The second thing we did with computing as a society was to create cheap computing. Right? Think of the cloud. It is powerful, yes, but really what we use it for is things like, I don't know, sending text messages to your friends for free instead of paying your service provider, or alerting your friends about what you had for breakfast, called blogging, right? So that's what we did with cheap computing power. So if you think of powerful computing as going through the genetic structure of a monkey or us and creating a map of how nature actually replicates itself and how to cure disease, what cheap computing does is it creates that into something like this, right? It shares the idea about toy making with lots of people, and the idea spreads, and you come up with the Furby, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is what cheap computing does. It affects everyday humanity in a very different way than powerful computing. And so we started to combine people and computers together. Instead of just saying, let's talk about science and computers, what can we do with people and computers? If every person had accessibility to computers, what would the world be like? If everybody has accessibility to computers everywhere, what would the world be like? And not only did it change the economy, not only did it change the way we perceive each other, but it also started creating culture that was vastly different than the popular culture that's out there. And this is what I call internet culture. I'll let you read that, or I'll say it out loud. If you had found this sexy 25 years ago, you'd be married to a billionaire. It sucks to be you. This man probably did more to popularize computing and put computing power in the hands of every person than anyone else in history. This man, who we know as a brilliant business person, transformed culture in ways that we didn't understand. Today, when you look at technology, we create things that are known, like products. So I'm going to create Twitter, and Twitter is limited to 140 characters. But what's really fascinating is that when we create a product, the unintended consequences of those products actually are far vastly more powerful than the intended consequence of those products. For example, no one realized that when the internet was created, that you would be using it to caption cat photos and sending them to all your friends. And that 3 weeks later, your grandmother would send you the same photo and tell you how funny it was. So the opposite of internet culture is popular culture. Sitcoms, the evening news, Geraldo Rivera, remember those shows? Well, this is the format of popular culture. The top-down structure of culture making, where a group of people, a small group, decides in vacuum, basically, that we should be watching a series of sitcoms based on a bunch of friends in New York who live in ridiculously outsized large apartment and call it Friends, right? And that's what mainstream culture is all about. That's create a product, sell it to a bunch of people, they'll own the rights to it, and they will market it and so on. Well, we have this culture called hacking. Software developers were really hackers, finding ways to do something that was unintended with a technology called software. Well, we now have what we call subversives, who are people who are trying to hack culture so they can create new meaning. The parody video that you saw was actually an example of what this subversive meaning generation is all about. Take something that is well known and established in popular culture, twist it out of context, put it in a different format, and now you've got a different meaning. That video can be seen straightforward as, you know, that's actually not a bad product, like back in the 60s, or you can look at it and go, oh, that's really ironic and funny, right? That's the subversive nature of meaning. Take a look at this image. Vladimir Putin, one of the most powerful men in the world, and he is just taking off his sunglasses. If you're familiar with CSI Miami, right? Some person decided to upload this photo and caption it and say, coming this fall, CSI Moscow. That's funny to a small group of people who took that popular cultural image and subverted it with political image and said, you know, we've actually got something humorous. And the internet has connected all these people together so that they can actually talk to one another, share their sense of humor. And in fact, what the internet has done in creating internet culture is that not only are we serving as a support structure for one another, creating tools, creating a place to publish this stuff, but we're actually serving as inspiration and mentors on how to create more and more internet culture. So unlike popular culture, which is owned by someone, which is relatively one way, and it's broadcast to the masses, internet culture, the culture that we create, is communal. It isn't owned by anyone. The concept of putting captions on cat photos is ironically not patentable. Surprise, surprise. It's owned by everyone who has participated in it. It is subversive. It is out there to twist the meaning of what people with power have to say. It tends to undermine that power. And it's also curated by true fans. It is mass media in that internet has enabled these photos to be spread from person to person to reach millions of people. However, the actual act of creating this content belongs to a small group of people who believe in this subject matter. Right? So it's almost a complete opposite of internet culture. Things like Facebook are actually helping us understand that the internet is still yet to go mainstream. Internet culture is still not a part of what we understand to be mainstream American or world culture. So we've got things like the TV shows, which still reach hundreds of millions of people in the United States. You've got the internet, which also reaches hundreds of millions of people in the United States. What's the difference? Why is one popular culture and why is one this kind of subversive internet culture? If you step outside the bubble of technology today, we live in a very special little universe here. San Francisco, the technical community, tends to view the world in a very different way than mainstream America, for example. And until people stop using or stop viewing the internet merely as a tool, as a piece of technology, something I can use to book flights and buy something, until people stop seeing it that way and start seeing it as a place where I can create culture, where I can actually consume and participate in the creation of content, internet culture will not come to the masses. And internet culture coming to the masses is actually important because it means that we're taking meaning back from commercialized entities, mainstream and one-way entities, and being two ways about it, right? Being democratic about the creation of culture is important because we get to decide the message that we believe is meritocratic. We get to decide what our neighbors will see. We get to decide what our children will see. And that's the power of internet culture. That finally, the internet is no longer just a tool, but also means to create meaning. That is all I have to say. This is my Twitter handle, okay, thanks, bye. And I have a couple of messages, actually. One, I know quite a few have requested to meet with me. I will be actually at Web 2.0 Open at 11 a.m. Tomorrow, so please come see me there. And I do have a little bit of gift for you guys. If you reach under your seat, there may or may not be a piece of paper. If you find that piece of paper, please come to my book signing tomorrow, and I will be giving you a free copy of our book, as a hot dog. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ben. project here at Web 2.0 Expo, world's first mention. Now, throughout the conference, we're going to have a number of interviews on stage, and we always want to hear what you want to know from these speakers. Tomorrow morning, after the amazing Parrot drone is flying around on stage, I'm going to be interviewing Adobe CTO Kevin Lynch. And I'd like to hear, Adobe's been in the news a little bit lately, and I'd like to hear what you are curious about, what you'd like me to ask him. So just tweet it to me. I'm at Brady on Twitter, or you can just send me a mail with Brady@O'Reilly. I've got some of my own questions, but I'd definitely like to feature some of yours, and that'll be tomorrow morning. Now I'd like to welcome up a former colleague of mine from Microsoft. She recently took a job helping Microsoft, and specifically Ray Ozzy's org, in exploring social scenarios and how to use all that data that we generate. Please welcome out Lily Cheng.
Thanks, Brady. Hi, everyone. So as Brady said, back in the fall, Ray Ozzy came up to Microsoft and he asked if I would start a lab focusing on social experiences. So it's been about, since October. And what I thought I would do today is show you 3 of the projects that we've been working on. 2 of them have already been launched, and I'll just give you a description and let you know what we've learned. And then one we're actually launching today. We kind of call it the Impossible Project. So more there. So let's see. All right. So the lab that I run is called Fuse. And some of the stuff that you've probably already seen, we've already released, as I said. So this is Bing Twitter, and one of the first things that we were really interested in doing is finding out how we could take all of this information coming out of search and really embed it in a tool out of Twitter, and how we could embed it into a tool that we think many, many people use every day. And so this almost seems like old news. She came up on stage last Web 2.0 in San Francisco and launched this. So what you see here are a bunch of trending topics, and if you click on one, my favorite one happens to be Mother's Day, you can find out what people in Twitter are saying about Mother's Day. And so this was about 6 months ago, and what I thought I'd do is talk about some of the other problems and issues and things that we're thinking about going forward with social search. So if you want, you can check it out, bingtwitter.com. And there's some really common technical problems that I think a lot of people are looking at and talking about with real-time search. So first is time. How do you handle time in search? We want it to be faster and more real-time, kind of more immediate. There's very unpredictable growth. So building the backend for this system was really challenging for us, and we actually built this on Windows Azure, which was pretty cool for us because it has this cool feature where it kind of can let you scale dynamically. So we really had no idea how much data there was going to be, and we keep getting additional data sources like the Facebook data source, et cetera. I'd love to have more information just to see what happens as we start putting communication information into search. We've also built the experimentation system in the release platform, so it's really the same infrastructure. So that's been great for us as a lab to be able to push more stuff out. But probably the key problem that we think is the hardest to solve is really getting quality data. And so we kind of focused in on this because it's a pretty hard problem. Some random person types in 140 characters, hits send, really has no idea or doesn't really care that it's going to show up on search. And how do we find out what's going to be meaningful to people? So we came from Microsoft Research, and so we hit up all of our research friends to say, go do all this machine learning and find some really cool stuff. And what we found kind of off the shelf was a product that we had acquired called FAST, which is really an enterprise search product. And maybe instead of FAST, they should call it SMART, because it has these really cool semantic capabilities. So on the left here, you see, this is just a mock-up of a portal that we built for internal use, but you can see all these portals. So if I search something like Dancing with the Stars, what this infrastructure lets us do is it does a really good job of extracting like parts of speech, so adjectives and what are people saying about a particular topic, what nouns and things are people talking about when they do this query, what companies and other entities are people talking about, what are locations that they're talking about, and what verbs and things are they using. But what's really cool about this infrastructure is not only does it come with a bunch of built-in filters, is you can actually author your own. So we've been adding everything basically that we have in the back end, like people with a lot of followers or people that get mentioned a lot and things like that. And we just think these are going to be great tools to let us present more interesting information to the end user. So lots of cool stuff coming out of Bing and search, and there's actually a session on this later. I think it's on Thursday, so I'm not going to go into this in detail, but you should definitely check it out. So FAST is a pretty interesting thing because it's an enterprise tool, and one of the things that we were really interested in isn't just about helping people socialize, but also help people get work done. And so we had this kind of simple idea of, well, it's interesting in search because all the short, simple things that you're communicating with people aren't necessarily getting out there in the world, but also the documents and things that you create, maybe in Word or PowerPoint or whatever authoring tool you use, also doesn't get out there on the web because they're still a little bit too hard to share. So we really thought about this, and we just launched this service last week, which is in limited beta. If you go to docs.com, you can sign up, and we'll try to get as many people in possible. But docs.com does something super simple. It just lets you either author, share, and edit Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Docs with all of your Facebook friends. And so it's been pretty cool because something kind of that straightforward and simple has just gotten this incredible response from people. So this is the homepage, and basically what you see are popular documents and your friends who are using Docs in Facebook. And then you can click on your friends' docs and see, you know, what people are sharing. Here's an example of a doc where I can see, you know, all my friends are commenting on it. And what's kind of cool with the new Facebook APIs is they let those comments embed either right in your feed, so it's super easy for people to discover and share, or you can access those, you know, in your own site. So we'd be really interested in just seeing how teenagers use docs. Do they even use documents anymore? And what kinds of things might people want to share? And what does it even mean about document creation? Do we still want people to start with a blank page, or maybe the way that we think about docs might need to change? And so we're really looking at how people use this. So like I said, you know, these are two projects. We've been pretty psyched because we've been able to get them out quickly from the lab. That was one of our goals, and hopefully a lot of people use them and find them useful. But one of the things that we really felt as we were doing some of the work with Bing and social search is that even if we do the most amazing job at extracting all of the best information out of the public feed, will it really give us what we want? And so, you know, most people aren't really that interested in what everybody else thinks and what's trending in Twitter. Really what you care about is what your own friends think is interesting, or what you think is interesting. And so we've been thinking for a long time about how could we do kind of your own personal index that's archiving your own information for yourself, that's private, that you can edit and author and interact with, and possibly also share with your friends and make open if that's what you choose. We call this project Spindex. It's kind of a nerd name for your social personal index, but you might also think of it as like your modern Rolodex. And some of the reasons it's hard, we kind of have been talking about this for a while, is because you know, the sort of cost and scale of some of these systems just sort of seems like a barrier to most people. But having done a lot of the work in Twitter and working with Azure, we really feel like we have a lot of strategies for managing unpredictable growth, also trying to get at data quality. And I think some of the most unique challenges about doing your own social personal index is to think of, today we have one index for everybody in the world. And you can't, it's kind of a one-way index. If you want to delete something, you can't. If you want to mark something up, it's really challenging. And so what is a two-way index? Like an index that you can actually interact with and modify and change and share. Like, what would that be? So anyway, let me give you a little demo. Let's see. So here's Spindex, and it's actually pretty simple if you look at the UI. So what we have here is, this might be something that you think of when you see a lot of aggregators. Right now I have in my index my Twitter feed, my Facebook feed, RSS feeds. The app itself also has a feed, and Brady just said something about, you know, all of your devices and things sort of blowing information out. I just think it'd be interesting to think of what happens as more and more of your information gets pulled into your index. So for now I have Evernote, but we'd love to talk to people if they're interested in more sources sort of being aggregated in. And so what happens is I have my feed, and I can kind of do standard things, like I can search, I don't know, happy or something like that, and you can search my index for people who've said happy, and I can also update and input content. But one of the things that we think is pretty interesting, and again, you've probably seen this on other sites, are your trending topics. One of the problems that I have with trending topics, I have this issue with trending topics on a lot of public internet, non-personal sites, but also my own, is that I have the same topics that trend over and over and over every single day. So if you look at my trending topics, I almost always have like the iPhone, now I have the iPad, Twitter, Foursquare, Google, Microsoft, you know, those kinds of things tend to trend all the time. So what's kind of cool with this on the right side is I can actually click in and I get these sub-trends for topics. So it just lets me know really what's new about Twitter. So if I go in and I see, I don't know, this thing, no Dexy, I don't really know what that means, I can figure out more about it. And I can actually look at who's been talking about that. So I see like my friend Mark Smith has been talking about it. So I can click on the post, I can open that up, find more information about it. And then what you see here is we're actually giving you more information about Mark. And then we're also looking at what he said and using kind of that the smarts that I talked about before to try to pull information to you that's interesting about what the person is saying. And for me, this is great because I have a lot of really smart, much hipper than I am friends, and they're always talking about things that I don't really know what they're talking about. And so this just brings that information to me rather than me reading my Twitter feed and then having to go out and find that information. And then we also do things like, if I find this interesting, I can save that query, and you can see the queries that I've saved here on the far side, so that the things that I really care about can stand out. So this is just kind of a start. We think it's really going to be interesting to see how people manage their own information. You can favorite things, you can add things, you can put whatever you want into your index. So I'd really encourage you guys to try it out. If you want to check it out, let's see. You can go to Spindex.me, which is the URL. Oops, here it is. One caveat, it's a very limited release, and so you'll have to sign up for access, and you do need a Windows Live account. We'll be working on more ways of authentication, so if you have a Windows Live account, you can sign up. There's a guy talking about this tomorrow as well, Matt McLaurin, and if you go to his session, he said he'd sign anybody up who wants to check it out. So anyway, we're pretty excited about the lab, the work that's coming out, and in a sense, the potential of all the cool social stuff that we can do in the future. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, so next up, I'm going to chat with Paul Buchheit. Paul has influenced the web probably in more ways than you realize. He was an early engineer, one of the first engineers at Google, and he started Gmail. He also built the first prototype for AdSense. He went on to co-found FriendFeed, which was acquired by Facebook last summer. He now works for Facebook, and he does angel investing. Please welcome Paul. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
All right, so you know that this year our big theme is around the power platforms. And I wonder, for Facebook, how do you think it's most interesting as a platform? And that could be different for developers and for consumers.
Right. Well, I think the real power is in the people, right? The reason it's such an amazing product is it has all of the users. And that's also what makes it an amazing platform, right? Is it brings that same power, all those people, to other websites. So when I go somewhere, I have the potential to connect with my friends on other sites.
Yeah. Have you talked to developers particularly about how they think of it as a platform, how it's appealing to them or challenging for them versus other kinds of platforms?
Yeah, certainly. I've been involved with quite a few different startups, so I talked to them. But also, we had our own startup, as you mentioned, FriendFeed, which used the Facebook platform. And it was honestly like kind of a mixed experience because it was a fairly complex API. Some of the terms are a little bit confusing. But those are actually some of the things that we saw last week, or 2 weeks ago at F8 with the new Open Graph API that was repaired, essentially. So there's a new API that's very easy to use. The caching restrictions have gone away. And a lot of that actually did come out of our experience using the API at FriendFeed.
Interesting. Can you just explain what the social graph API is for those who might not know the Open Graph?
It's a very simple, kind of RESty API that makes it easy to access all of the information in Facebook, obviously with appropriate permissions. And it does it through very simple URLs, JSON. It's browsable, it's discoverable, and it's very easy to develop on. And so it's the same information, the same functionality that was in the API for the most part previously, but it's made to be much easier for developers to work with. So you don't need to be a Facebook developer, you're just more of a web developer, and you can pick up this new thing very quickly. You can integrate it into your site with without spending months learning the intricacies of the Facebook development platform.
Right. So you mentioned permissions, which is a hot topic. Let's get that one out of the way. Let's talk about privacy on Facebook a little bit. How do you think about it? How do you use it?
Well, the way I use it, I actually changed my privacy settings to be more public because I didn't. That was kind of one of my other things with Facebook because I like the ability to share things with people easily, and so I set I think everything to be everyone except my phone number and email because I didn't want random people calling me. But and that again connects back, I guess, with a lot of my experience using FriendFeed and a lot of the kind of surprising benefits of just sharing things with the world, and there's a lot of serendipity. You don't really know what you're going to get back. I'll post a link, and most of the time there's nothing there, but a lot of times maybe I post an interesting article and someone will recommend a book that I should read, and so I'll go buy that book. And I've just made a lot of interesting discoveries, and I think it's very hard to predict the value that comes out of those things, but when I look back at a lot of the things that have been really important to my life and things that have mattered a lot, they were very unpredictable. It was just because, something random happened. And so I think by opening ourselves up a little bit more and allowing for more serendipity and more connection with other people, things just automatically tend towards being better.
Yeah, Tim O'Reilly used the phrase the other day that we're trying to maximize the surface area of serendipity. That was
exactly.
a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So do you know if Zuckerberg's settings, his privacy settings on Facebook are the default settings?
I don't know if he has the default or not, but if you go to his page, I think it's facebook.com/Zuck, it looks like it's mostly public, so I don't know if he changed it or if that's the default.
So you've been at the forefront of some big communication developments on the web, both Gmail and FriendFeed. And I wonder, I'd like to hear what you think might be coming next, what you see that's emerging, that's interesting. But before we do that, I wonder if you could help people understand what was really significant about FriendFeed, because I think it's important and not everybody might know.
So FriendFeed was really based around these ideas of making it very simple to share things and very simple to interact with those shared items. So like the liking, which seems to be popping up everywhere these days. I'm not going to claim that we invented it, but I can't remember seeing it anywhere else. And it came back to that desire, and it was very much just our own personal experience using the product. We'd share something, or someone would share something, and you just want to make a little notation. You just want to let people know you saw it and that you appreciated it. And you don't necessarily have anything intelligent to say, so you don't want to leave a comment. And so just putting in those simple little gestures, making it all as lightweight as possible, is, I think, very powerful. And it's the same way with the comments. We made the comments very quick and easy, so it's not like a blog comment where you're going to write a big essay. We actually, this may or may not have been the right thing, but we actually didn't even allow like new lines, line breaks. You would just hit enter and it would post the comment because we wanted it to be very quick and lightweight. And I think that is probably the future of a lot of the upcoming communication mediums or whatever, things that become popular, is making it easier to do these really lightweight, kind of spontaneous, real-time conversations. And if you look back, like one of my favorite things to think about, and it's obviously like not a new technology, but it surprises me every time I think about it, is SMS. If you, just kind of as a mental exercise, imagine going back maybe 20 years and telling people, yes, in the future, everyone will carry a telephone in their pocket, but they won't make voice calls. Instead, they're going to type on a tiny little keyboard. They use like messages to each other. And even though the voice is basically free, these things are going to cost 15 cents each. And that's like how it's going to be. It would sound insane, right? So I think an interesting model is just to ask yourself, like, why is that so popular? Why is that so powerful? And the answer is just that it's very lightweight. It's just the right level of interruption, right? Like my phone buzzes. I know I got an SMS, but I don't have to like stop and talk to the person, set up a whole, oh, how are you doing today? You know, the weather's good. And so it's much more lightweight, and I think we're going to see more of that. And it's the same pattern on Facebook or Twitter, where very lightweight ways for people to stay connected. And that's really good because it makes it easier for you to stay connected to more people, and that just makes the world a little more connected and creates greater social context.
I think that's a great observation. There's a little bit of a trade-off. You might not get as deep, but you can stay connected to more.
Right, but I think that sometimes people criticize it as being too shallow, but that hasn't been my experience. I think what it does is it creates the context for deeper discussions later on. So then if I run into my friend, in person, and maybe last week I saw him post something on Facebook about, his baby has a cold or something. And then right away I've got that little bit of context. I'm like, oh, is your daughter feeling better? How are things going there? Instead of, start off, oh, how are things? Again, it gets you deeper into the conversation faster. And so I think it really helps people stay more connected in a more personal and genuine way.
Yeah, I found that too. It's one of the things I like about these services. You're right there with people.
Right.
You just dive right in. So let's talk about your investing a little bit. What are you seeing that's most interesting in companies these days, and what are you looking for?
I don't have any formula. To me, it's a very intuitive kind of process, but the thing I really want to know is why. Why do they care? If people just say, I'm starting this company because I think it's going to make me rich, I think that's like a pretty bad sign. I think the companies that are most influential and ultimately most successful are the ones that are aiming for impact, the ones that actually really care about the world and the influence they've had on the world. And so that's also something I guess I've learned just from watching both inside of Google and Facebook, is I think people don't even realize the extent to which both of those companies are completely, it really is backed by a vision and a mission of the founders, where they really do care about what they're doing, and it's reflected in a lot of the decisions. And you don't see that from the outside necessarily. Like people say, oh, they did this because of, they want to boost revenue or something, but and a lot of times it doesn't even make sense, from that perspective. But if you actually know the personalities and you know like what they're thinking, and like at Google, it's all about information and computers and making everything really fast. And at Facebook, it's the sharing and the connection and all of that. The things that they're doing make a lot of sense. And also, I think that really gives the company a lot of direction. Like you can understand why they're doing the things they're doing, and that mission, I think, motivates people and provides purpose. And so, back to your actual question, which was about startups, I really like to see that. I like to see that they actually care about what they're doing and the impact that it's going to have on the world, because I think ultimately the success will be a function of the impact on the world.
Any trends you're seeing among them, either in how they're operating, the technologies they're using, the themes that they're working on?
I think everyone is moving towards these more lightweight, rapid iteration. There's been a lot of talk about this, and I think Eric will be coming out later to talk more about lean startups. And I think that's a great trend, because it allows you to really discover a lot of the details, get a lot of the details right much sooner. And certainly that was what we tried to do at FriendFeed. We would come up with new features and launch them the same day. And it's I also find it's just like a much more pleasant way to work. I don't think I could ever survive in a sort of old shrink-wrap software world where you work for 4 years without releasing. That would kill me.
Right, no feedback.
I have a hard time working for like a day without getting it out.
Well, final question here. I'm kind of wondering who you admire on the web. I know a lot of people admire you and follow you, and I've tried to learn from you. Who do you learn from?
I follow a lot of random links. I think it's surprising. Like just this morning, I was reading some guy's blog that I've never heard of. He's probably famous, but I think he's a writer. But it was really interesting because he was talking about, and I don't even know where it came from. It was just in like a browser tab that I opened 2 weeks ago and forgot about. There's just like really great things out there, and I think I must have followed the link off of someone's friend feed or something like that. And so I think what is so exciting about the web is the fact that almost anyone can become important. It isn't like that someone has to be really famous or whatever. It's just that they have a message that's very compelling, and suddenly it can reach the whole world.
Well, Paul, on that note, thank you so much
All right, thank you.
for being here.